kids fantasize about all kinds of stuff, like what Santa's going to bring them for Christmas, or consuming massive amounts of ice cream in one sitting, or maybe becoming a doctor or even a mermaid. But you know what I fantasized about? Being rude, using curse words, and leaving my manners at home. I was raised in the South, in Florida to be exact, and while everyone sort of believes that we're always surfing and hanging out at Disney World, the social graces thing is for real. And I was raised in a household where yes ma'am and no sir was the way that things went. And people will say, oh, bless your little heart. And they mean it. It's like not sarcastic. They really mean it. One time I remember coming home from school with all of these reminders written on my hand in ink, and my dad said, you know, buddy, you really shouldn't do that. It's just not ladylike. And my parents would teach me to be kind and friendly to everyone I met. My mother would say things like, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And feminism was something that I read about in social studies class, and I figured I was one because I was an athlete. So I wore a sports bra, but I wasn't burning it or anything. I was a lot more worried about being a lady and following the rules than I was being a feminist. So when I moved to New York City as a 20-something, things were a little bit different. And it turns out that when you are kind and friendly to everyone you meet in New York, you get one of two responses. Someone will either throw you some serious shade and get to the other side of the sidewalk as quickly as humanly possible, or they believe that you are inviting them to have sex with them in that very present moment, right then. It is like sending a dang Evite from your vagina. Please don't RSVP to that. Yeah. So every woman has like a handful of examples of when they have gotten unwanted attention, right? And so I want to share a couple with you. One that comes to mind is when I was leaving my first improv comedy class somewhere in the West 30s, affectionately known as the Dirty 30s, and for very good reason. And the comedy club happened to be near a plant store that was positioned on a corner. And as I was coming around that corner, one of the employees was pelvic thrusting and doing like a come hither motion while he watered a bunch of ferns. It's kind of hard to coordinate, actually. I feel kind of proud of him in this moment as I'm trying to do it for you. And instead of defending myself or something, I just sort of like smiled and waved and went to the other side of the street. But I was so internally horrified that I went in a store that could only exist in the Dirty 30s. It sells wigs for Orthodox Jewish women, wigs for drag queens, and dresses for everybody else. And I purchased basically like a glorified turtleneck. It was sort of mustard colored and stretchy, and it just covered as much of my body as I figured, like, I don't know, I'll just cover myself, it will be fine. But there was nowhere to change, so I snuck into a Jennifer Convertibles furniture store and went into the clearance section and put on said turtle dress behind a clearance love seat just to see if that would help. And a second occasion I want to tell you about is when I was going by one of those kebab stands, like on the side of the street, you know, and the man held one of them up and wiggled his eyebrows at me and said, "Do you want to try my meat stick?" In front of my boyfriend. So in a very slight step up in self-defense, I did not smile, and I said, "No, thank you." But the time I really want to focus on is one time I was going down Fifth Avenue, which is presumably like a highbrow, kind of a classier neighborhood, right? And I was going by a brownstone that was under construction. And the men that were closest to me, one was an English-speaking man in a construction hat, and then a Spanish-speaking man just behind him in one of those neon construction vests, right? And I had really learned to have my guard up at this point and just kind of not make eye contact and walk by. So I'm going by acting like all, hard and ready. And they're like, and the guy closest to me, the English-speaking man, says, "Oh, hey, you got a smile for me today, honey?" And I gripped my teeth and put my chin in the air and just kept walking. And he's like, "Oh, come on, baby, you ain't got no smile for me today." And the wrath of all womankind welled up inside me. And a feminist demon came up from the depths of my soul, or hell, or somewhere like it. And I turned on my heels and I said, "Do you have a mother or daughters or sisters? Because if you do, they would be ashamed of you. And besides, you're going to need all of their help to get my middle fingers out of your butthole when I'm done with you." I was appalled. It was like when a dog farts and they scare themselves half to death because they don't know where it came from. I could not believe or accept what I had just done. Not only had I said something pretty vaguely kinky, which was the opposite of my intention, but I had also single-handedly murdered the English language with the longest run-on sentence of all time. And I had missed my opportunity to say asshole. I could have cursed. Like my parents told me not to as a child, but I had defended myself in a slightly demonic way, but defended myself nonetheless. And the man in the hat cowered back and took the hat and put it over his heart like a cowboy from the South. And he said, "I'm so sorry, ma'am." And the Spanish-speaking man behind him muttered something under his breath in Spanish, presumably, "Run for your life." And I was shaking so ferociously that I had to take off my high heels and wobble down the rest of the street away from them. But I had won. Now, I have to say that when you tell people stuff like this, they often think that women are doing some sort of weird humble brag. Okay, ladies, you feel me? Like, "Oh yeah, this guy licked his lips and sucked his teeth at me from a car window. Oh, honey, don't be ridiculous. It's a huge compliment. You should be glad that people do stuff like that for you." Okay. Someone just meowed at me with like a kitten or the P word reference involved. "Oh, what? I don't know, just don't make it so big of a deal. Just calm down. You're a lady, Or someone pelvic thrusting from ficus plants and a wall full of ferns. "Oh, honey, he's just this creepy old guy. He didn't mean anything by it. He meant well." Did he? Did he mean well? Well, that's actually not how that makes me feel. I'm a confident woman. I feel like I do all right presenting myself publicly to the world. But what I would like to feel is that confidence and that light and maybe a little bit of swagger, even if I'm wearing a turtle dress out of poorly constructed Lycra, or a black sequin miniskirt, or a sports bra and some Umbros. All of it comes from something way more important, deep down inside that heart that people in the South want to bless. And I believe that I became a feminist that day in New York City. And I would also like to believe that my 5-year-old daughter, when she grows up, that she'll say, "Yeah, bless my mom's heart and her strength too." Thank you.